What's up, everybody? So I've got Comrade Arjun. What is your last name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I was going to butcher you. Thank you for not letting me butcher it. Comrade Arjun Jonathan. He is a member of YDSA is it the
Purdue
University of Purdue or Purdue University?
Purdue University, yeah.
All right. So he is with YDSA at Purdue University in Indiana.
Yeah, Purdue University in Indiana, West Lafayette. Although my overall chapter is Metro Detroit DSA, where I live.
Okay.
Currently over the summer. So
I fucks with the D. So yes, I fucks with the D. I'm gay, and I also really love Detroit. So I fucks with the D two ways. Anyways, so you are running for the NCC of YDSA.
Yes.
So I guess we can start by talking about some big national DSA politics. So this statement was literally just issued. I found out from one of the Red Star people that posted it on Twitter. But the NPC, the National Political Committee's endorsement, because so the way that DSA endorsements work is that if it's a national level position that a DSA member is contesting, for example, AOC is a member of the NYC branch of DSA. So if a person has a national profile, I guess, like that, or if they're running for a national position, they are endorsed by both their local chapter and by national DSA, right? So DSA NYC has maintained the endorsement of AOC. I mean, she's going to be reelected. She won a primary. And the NPC, the National Executive Organ of Democratic Socialists of America, has chosen to withdraw their endorsement of AOC. So what is the justification for that? Well, basically, AOC, as we were saying earlier before we started the stream, plays both sides, right? So this is really what got me. Finally, AOC recently hosted a public panel with leaders from the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, lobbyists for the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. On this panel, she conflated anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism and condemned boycotting Zionist institutions. This sponsorship is a deep betrayal to all those who have risked their welfare to fight Israeli apartheid and genocide through political and direct action in recent months and in decades past. So, honestly, I think another major reason why a lot of people in DSA are being like towards AOC is because she just re-endorsed Biden, like proudly and openly, like he is our nominee. And the thing is, like, if you identify as a socialist, a democratic socialist, or any type of socialist, you really have no business messing with these types of politics. And it's obvious to both you and me that AOC doesn't give a shit about DSA. She doesn't give a shit about socialism. She gives a shit about power, right? Like I call her little Nancy Pelosi for a reason. So I'm really glad this happened. But also, this is also important. The NPC's endorsement was conditional. So basically, AOC keeps the national endorsement if she publicly opposes all funding in Israel, including the Iron Dome, participates regularly in DSA Federal Socialist and Office Committee, publicly opposes all criminalization of anti-Zionism, and publicly supports BDS. Obviously, she's not going to do any of these things. And earlier this week, the NPC received a request from the steering committee of NYC DSA to withdraw the endorsement because it took place after the New York Democratic primary, blah, 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 blah. Basically, bureaucratic bullshit. But, like, this is really important because, like, AOC, like the rightists within the organization constantly are like, oh, she is so important. She's our most well-known member. And I'm like, why aren't they like this about Cori Bush? Why aren't they like this about Rashida Tlaib? Like, why is everybody so obsessed with AOC?
Well, the thing I would say to that is, and you're right, I would prefer that we rallied more strongly around Cori Bush or Rashida Tlaib. The thing is, they're kind of right. AOC, for a while, was our most important member in the sense that, like, she was making the headlines, right? She is like the public face. She still is in many ways the public face of the democratic socialist movement, in that, like, many young people are identifying, like, more specifically on the left, and with, like, the democratic socialism in, like, the sense of, like, the Bernie Sanders kind of vogue of politics. which is why, and also to your point about AOC not caring about DSA, I think that she definitely doesn't care about national DSA. I think she does care about NYC DSA. Specifically because she's actually very involved in NYC DSA, and NYC DSA kind of acts like a member of her, from what I understand, and I'm no expert, a member of her campaign. And I think I really like that the NPC did a conditional endorsement here, right? Because it's like on one hand, even if like not everybody like feels like AOC is doing enough, like I think before the Palestine stuff, it was very easy, and I for one also supported the argument. They're like, okay, well, there's no harm in like endorsing her. She's not like diluting our movement so much to the point where it betrays the core ideals, right? But I think with stuff that she's voluntarily done, specifically, not even just like the Iron Dome stuff, which is already cringe. We all know this. But even stuff that she's voluntarily doing, what she appears to be doing, she's obviously trying to climb the ranks, which is fine. I mean, listen, the entire point of socialism, of elected democratic socialists in office was for them to get more power. That's the entire point of the idea. It's an important part of the campaign. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that's her goal.
Yeah, some people would counter like what? How much power does AOC even have? Like she's one congressperson.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of people believe that she's trying to go for like a senator position or something like that in the future. And so what she's trying to do here is carve out a niche with the liberals, right? Like because when we think of, and I think we leftists have a tendency to like overgeneralize all liberals as like extreme rightists, which like economically they are, of course. But the thing is, like a lot of liberals see themselves as people on the left. They look at the tragedy they look at the genocide in Gaza, right? And a lot of liberals now are calling it a genocide, right? And they're of course and they're liberals in the sense that their solution to this is like, oh, we need like it's because Netanyahu is like, not like letting go of power, and if we had like a liberal Israeli Zionist prime minister, everything would be solved. That's their analysis of it, which is obviously wrong. But and they get like worried about anti-Semitism because they know they don't like Charlottesville. Like Charlottesville happened, that was a huge story for a while, and so they're like, oh well, we don't want to be anti-Semitic, whatever. And so they're like, so they want to like kind of like have like the whole thing of we need to make sure Purity has to make sure we're not anti-Semitic without engaging with the ideas that are not anti-Semitic in nature, but they're just trying to cover for themselves, right? And AOC, what she did when she does stuff like support Biden for the purpose of being like, oh, he's the guy who can defeat Trump, which liberals are incredibly scared of. Or bring on like the thing for anti-Semitism where she essentially says like, listen, what's happening in Gaza is terrible. You know it's terrible. I know it's terrible. Saying that what's happening in Gaza is good is a conservative Republican position now, right? Now, obviously, the Democratic position is that it's bad, but it's like, it's like, what can you do, right? And AOC is kind of like acting like a bit of a like a little bit of like I'm fighting for change, but we got to make sure, we don't go too far, so on and so forth, right? Which is why
it's basically like stock rightist pragmatism. That's the thing that I always like. I think I said this earlier, but like liberals and to a certain extent leftists like don't understand the nature of politics. Like politics is a blood sport. A lot of liberals and a lot of leftists are still like inclined to see politics as either a chess game or like an exchange of rhetoric. Like, no, like in this country, the right has so much political power because they know that politics is a blood sport, right? Like Mao said, politics is warfare without bloodshed.
I was going to say a very Mao's interpretation of politics.
Yeah, like politics is warfare without bloodshed. What that means is that you don't negotiate, you don't reason with people who are ideological partisans. That's what a lot of these right-wing people are. These are ideological partisans. The people that wrote Project 2025, like they're not interested in reaching across the aisle or finding common ground with Democrats or liberals or leftists. They're interested in destroying Democrats and liberals and leftists. So we have to match their freaks, so to say. Like these people literally want to destroy us. And you have liberals that are obsessed with fantasy scenarios about, oh, what if we replace Biden with Kamala Harris? It's like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it's kind of sad to see because, like, honestly, I think a lot of these people are very well-meaning. They are very well-meaning, but they are also very delusional, and they haven't read theory. But it just pains me to see their hearts broken over and over and over again. Like, when are you people going to get it? Like, when are they going to get it?
Well, that's the thing. They're going to get it when they start getting involved in getting, and this brings me to like my YDSA spiel and shit, right? I think there is this notion in a lot of leftist organizations where there's an expectation that people come into the organization preformed as leftists, which like, there's obvious reasons for that, right? But I think what's lost, and what especially with YDSA specifically, is like YDSA is young people, right? I'm 21. I'm pretty like steadfast in my views, but like I'm still growing. I'm still like in like the nascent stages of my like leftist life. There are a lot of like young students who come in as liberals, right? They come in being like, you know, we really did a good thing when we elected Biden into office, and from their perspective, they really did, right? And in many ways, in many ways, they did. Biden is like, if we want to be like, okay, like take the American political spectrum on face value, which we should not do. But if we were doing that, sure, Biden is like better than Trump. And the reason that people think Biden better than Trump are like, you know, reasons that we can empathize with, right? Racial, usually a lot of it's on racial lines. A lot of it's on class lines, less so. Democrats don't really care about class lines, but they kind of do. But most of it is on like racial or like homophobic lines, stuff like that. When an organization like a DSA says you have to come into our organization as socialists, okay, well, there are 1,000 other things that are happening that are turning people into socialists, sure, but we don't know when that'll happen for these people. We don't know what that'll turn them into. We don't know what that'll gravitate them towards. What's much stronger, however, is, and I use this example a lot, say you have some campaign on your university for contraceptives, right? Like reproductive health access. And you have like some, like, I don't know, some like predominantly white, like rural, like women-led, of course, women-led org, trying to like secure reproductive access, who are not socialists. They don't have class consciousness, right? Well, when I hear about that, and when a YDSA chapter hears about that, they should think to themselves, okay, well, what does YDSA believe in? We believe in mutual aid, and we believe that reproductive health is a right. So what YDSA chapter should be doing is going out and helping them with that, right? Helping them with that campaign, because it provides a sense of, hey, we are here to help. We are here to form community. And it also, on the basis of intersectionality, gets a lot of those formerly, because liberals love intersectionality, right? In concept. And liberals love a lot of things in concepts, right? The problem is that they don't know how to deal with those things. If DSA comes in as like an assisting, YDSA specifically comes in as like assisting and radicalizing force, taking these elements and then like twisting them a bit, right? Be like, oh, but why do you think this is the way that is? Why do you think this is the way that is? Work with me here, walk with me, walking them through it. Now now you might be saying that's a lot of like labor to take on. And should that be the responsibility of the vanguardist party when we have like shit to go on? But here's the thing. To use a term I used earlier when talking about AOC, we play the field we have, right? We play the field we have. We have a lot of young people who just, they're thinking the right things. They're thinking America is racist. Liberals, it's now a common thing for liberals to say America is racist, but and the way they make it out in their head is like, oh, America's racist, but it doesn't have to be. So stuff like that, right? They have all these thoughts, and they just don't know what to do with them, and they can't join DSA because those are the crazy guys. Those are the guys that lost Hillary Clinton the election. Those are the guys that refused to.
Hillary Clinton lost herself the election.
Literally, exactly. Well, that's the thing, right? But they're not going to. But like, how are they going to come to that conclusion? I mean, and that's actually probably a bad example because a lot of people are coming to that conclusion now. But like, they see DSA as like the crazy guys, the guys who like lost us because they like refuse to like die for Bernie, the guys who like want to like kill and like to fucking use a term from Disco Elysium, kill anyone with more than $20 in their pocket, so on and so forth, right? That's what they think, because they don't have any framework for be like, okay, how does DSA actually operate? How does a socialist org actually operate? Because no socialist believes that whatever governmental structure you subscribe to, whether you're an ML or an anarchist or whatever, nobody believes that mutual aid should be exclusive to those who are oppressed, but also aren't class conscious. They believe that oppression is for all people. So or sorry, or the people of all chains must be free, whether they know it or not. They still deserve to be free.
Mm-hmm.
We got to work with that. If the entire point is a great awakening, we got to start working with people. We got to start working with, yes, I know it's scary, liberals. We got to start working with not, and I want to be very clear. I do not mean the way AOC works with liberals, where she like is talking about like trying to get like Joe Biden and like stuff like that. What I mean by that is when liberals have very legitimate fears about reproductive health, legitimate fears about racial inequality, so on and so forth, and they feel like disillusioned, but you know, hey, like fucking Nancy Pelosi knelt down and fucking raised a fist, so she can't be all bad, and like stuff like that. They just don't. We gotta reach out and be like, hey, well, we're doing this thing. Come on and help out. You don't necessarily have to agree with socialism yet, but come in and help out. And that's how they get more involved. That's how they get talking to people. That's how they see a better way forward. Because the theory of change of socialism is so strong that any socialist worth a start should believe and should practice that when in the field, that idea will rise up to become the dominant idea of change based on its virtue and its effectiveness in a small scale, and that will radicalize people further and further. Right? Take Palestine for instance, and I'll talk about this very quickly. You have it up on the screen. When SJP and DSA have a bad relationship, let's just say that right now. PYM and DSA have a worse relationship.
Well, it depends, right? Like,
it depends on the chapter, but nationally, they explicitly do. PYM nationally does not like DSA. YDSA is a different story. Why is YDSA a different story? Well, it's because mainly people of my kind of age group, right, have a very identitarian swing on things, where they came into leftism with first on the basis of identitarianism and intersectionality. So when there's a Palestinian organization coming up, right, you don't go to the Palestinian organization and say, hey, we're DSA, we're the agents of change, follow us to victory. That's not going to fucking work. What's going to work is SJP is going to go forth and be like, hey, we want to do this. And then you show up and be like, as an individual member, rank and file strategy, right? You show up to a meeting and be like, hey, I see you want this. Here's what my organization can do for you. Here's how we can help you guys. DSA does not set the goals for SJP or for Palestinian organizations. They assist Palestinian organizations in setting their own goals and therefore earn the trust of the broader left. Feeling like, and I tweeted, and I think I was one of this tweet, feeling like DSA naturally must lead the Palestinian movement because we have positioned ourselves as the vanguard is not a persuasive way of getting people.
And the thing is, like DSA isn't even a communist party, so it can't be a vanguard. Like the vanguard can only be a communist party led by the most advanced segments of the working class and revolutionary working class organic intellectuals. So like it's sort of presumptuous. Like during that whole spat last month between certain elements of DSA, the rightist elements of DSA, PYM, and within our lifetime, WOL. Like it was amazing, like how people were talking about Comrade Nardine Kiswani of within our lifetime in New York. Like this is literally the vanguard of the Palestinian movement. And you're saying, oh, it's not so important. Like they're just one organization. No, this is the most advanced segment, the youth, PYM within our lifetime. The people that are literally facing state repression every time they go out. And never mind to talk about the encampments. Like I had one dude tell me, oh, these are just fucking kids. They've never paid a bill in their lives. They have time to go sleep in tents. I'm like, how fucking arrogant do you get? And then you guys act hurt when people don't want to fuck with y'all. Because like, come on. Like you said, many of these people, it is not just your age group. You're only... Well, I'm getting ready to be 30, so you're like 9 years younger than me. Yeah, almost 10 years younger than me. But I came to activism during the fallout from Mike Brown, and I'm from St. Louis. So that identitarianism and that intersectionality, and like there's more than a few interpretations of what intersectionality is. You have a proletarian revolutionary understanding of intersectionality. Like it was literally developed, the thesis and practice of intersectionality was literally derived by Black women who had experience in the new communist movement, who had experience in the Black Panther Party, but they realized that these male-dominated spaces did not offer full play to Black women to exercise ideological and political autonomy. They were basically expected to just follow along and do whatever the men said. So that's the roots of intersectionality. Of course, white people got hold to it like everything else and twisted and tormented it into something. So now you have people saying that Hillary Clinton's presidency would have been an intersectional benefit to all of society, some happy horse shit like that. And you also have on the other end, you have people like the MAGA cons and the patriotic socialist trash that want to throw the whole analysis out in favor of liquidation of everything into the false notion of this conservative male white American worker. So, but one of the main reasons why I like YDSA is because of the process that you just described. You all were out there at the encampments. Mm-hmm. You all were out there marching alongside PYM and within our lifetime and Students for Justice in Palestine. And that's why these organizations, they may not fuck with the rest of DSA. And like, I actually talked to PYM members when I was in DC last week. Like, they were very clear that like their problem is not with all DSA members. Mm-hmm. Their problem is not with all DSA members. They literally had Rashida Tlaib speak at the big conference in Detroit a couple months ago.
I was there. That was incredible.
Yeah, like the problem is not with all DSA members. The problem is because the right wing is very loud online and they have bureaucratic control of a lot of these branches, particularly NYC. Mm-hmm. And all of this stems back really to Michael Harrington and the fact that like liberal Zionists have been in this organization since its very inception. Mm-hmm. Like if you trace the roots of DSA all the way back to the 60s and 70s, like a lot of these people, they did not like the radical anti-war movement. They did not like the Black Panther Party. Like this is an organization with very conservative by leftist standards roots. Mm-hmm. So what's happened is this organization blew up because of Bernie. It blew up because of the George Floyd uprising. It blew up because of Mike Brown. DSA was the organization that's easiest to join. So a lot of people did join. So what's happening is the composition of the organization is fundamentally being changed. Like if this was 1984, 1985, people like me or people like you would not be in this organization because it was not an organization that was friendly to Black Maoists and Indian revolutionaries, right?
I'm Sri Lankan
revolutionaries. I'm sorry.
I actually have a bit to say about that later, if you have time at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. I'll try not to pick your brain about the whole Tamil Tigers situation.
Oh, actually, that's actually what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I can say it now real quick. I'm okay. What do you call? I'm trying to start my role in this. You know, like when if somebody's making a movie or documentary or something, and there's a guy who like people send them like the cuts, and then they look at it and be like, "Yep, looks good," and then like stamp of approval and send it on. That's like a producer, right?
I guess I don't know. I'm not in the movie. I'm not in the movie industry. I'm the live stream.
I guess I would say okay. I'm a producer on so a great comrade of ours, Arjun, who is a Twitch political commentator, who with a focus. He's based in America, but he's focused on South Asian politics, politics that which are very often misinterpreted by the West and even the West left, right? And he is of Tamil. He's of Tamil descent. He's Tamil Nadu. I am of Elam Tamil descent, which is the Elam Tamils were the Tamils of Sri Lanka. And he's working on a documentary called Grief-Stricken Winds, premiering in September, that will do a full history and chronicling of the genocide of the Elam Tamil people, which is remarkably similar. Okay, that's bullshit. A chat thing just popped up. That's the whole official thing is bullshit.
I clicked on it to get your response.
Listen, it might one day be that way for the Sinhala, but that's the dominant ethnic group, right? It's not going to be that way for Tamils or for Muslims. but and again, I'm not like a super expert on this. I came to Arun because I was like, hey, you were talking about this. I'm Nilam Tamil. I really appreciate what you've done. I'm looking to learn more. And after talking with him, he eventually let me into his creative process for Grief-Stricken Winds, which was incredible of him. But and I very much recommend everybody here like go follow him on Twitch and stuff, because South Asian politics are so incredibly interesting. They reflect American politics very well, and he's an incredible commentator.
I remember like a few years ago, like there was basically an uprising in Sri Lanka, and like
yes, well, that one, okay.
Palace.
Here's the thing about that, right? So that one was a result of Rajapaksa, which is the Rajapaksa family is like kind of like the dominant family in Sri Lankan politics for the past few years. And God, Arun, if you're watching, I apologize if I butcher this. You are the expert on South. Arun is his nickname is the South Asian politics understander. I am not the South Asian politics understander. Let me be very clear on that.
I sure as fuck ain't.
Yeah, but when it comes to that with the latest uprising, that was over like Rajapaksa's intense economic mismanagement. Mismanagement's a very light word. Intense economic, I get mismanagement. Where sorry, Arun is texting me. Oh, yo, I'm listening. Arun, I'm so sorry for me about to butcher this. You should come on later. But the Rajapaksa, when you actually go to those protesters, right, those Sinhala protesters, there was a Tamil protester going up and being like, hey, and we also need justice for the disappeared Tamils, right? The ones that were abducted in white vans and like raped and killed by the Tamil Tigers under Rajapaksa's direct orders. And the Sinhala protesters were like, oh, this isn't about that. Go away. So it's like, it's really interesting. And one part of Arun's documentary with Grief-Stricken Winds that I really, really appreciate is he highlights how, I mean, the genocide was carried out through the arming of the Sri Lankan military through other governments. And you have your usual suspects, of course, America, Israel, but also like China and even Cuba contributed to the Sri Lanka's in creating the killing fields and massacring the Tamil population. And the reason it's more relevant now than ever, the Elam Tamil genocide is many people. There's an article on Al Jazeera about this actually. See a lot of the same echoes of that in Palestine, in Israel's collective punishment of the Palestinians, because it was a collective punishment campaign in Tamil Elam as well, right? And especially with the Sri Lankan government, famously before Israel did it, told the ethnic group, the Tamils, like, hey, this is a safe zone, go over here to be safe. And then they started shelling that safe zone because the terrorists are there, or whatever, according to them, right? And like the Rajapaksa method, as it was coined in like some war hawkish magazine. And that kind of method, Arun touches on it more, but a lot of like those and they got away with it. They completely got away with it. Nobody did anything to help the Tamil people. I don't even think it's still considered a genocide. It's not considered genocide by like UN and stuff, right? Nobody did anything to help the Tamils. They were abandoned. They were lost, and it just was never picked up. Which is why I'm incredibly grateful on one hand that Palestine has been, because even before October 7th, Palestine was kind of adopted by the young left in this country, as it should be, because of course it's very much a metastasis of American imperialism. But Sri Lanka is another example of a major genocide being committed with some of the most horrific atrocities, very, very similar to Israel's code of conduct. Even more so than just the safe zone shelling. Well, that is a big one. And nobody did anything. Well, why? Well, because fucking America got a sick new America and China to with all political all mainstream political analysis considers to be complete enemies. They both got access to a sick new port out of it. Yeah. So why would they care if the brown people kill each other?
Didn't China take control of that because Sri Lanka is in a bunch of debt to China?
Arun could tell you more about that, but that but
I
yes,
follow him now.
Yeah, but yes, China has I believe direct access over to the
and they do a lot of that. That's basically the same shit they do in Africa. We're gonna build you a railroad, we're gonna build you a subway, we're gonna build you a stadium, and in exchange we get to open up artisanal coltan mines.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know how similar it is then actually, because fuck, again, I'm not an expert, but I believe the main thing was, what do you think of of MK Stalin? Well, I don't know if you know what he's talking about. In Tamil Nadu, and to be clear, I'm Elam Tamil, which means my family is from Sri Lanka. They're Sri Lankan Tamils, and I'm by no means an expert on Sri Lankan politics. I don't really know much about it besides the reflexes. But what that chat is referring to is that the a major political figure. I actually don't know his official title. Fuck, this is so embarrassing. But in Tamil Nadu, his name is MK Stalin. So, you know,
yeah, people don't understand like the immense cultural impact that communism has had in India. Like you could like this dude's named Lenin, Stalin, all types of shit. Same thing with Latin America. Like I think one of the presidents of Ecuador was named Gustavo Lenin or something like that.
Is that true? I'm not.
Yeah. I'll look them up. But yeah, like it's like it's an entirely different way of looking at things. Like India, of course, was under British colonization, horrible famines caused by the fascist pig Winston Churchill. So there were, and of course, it's the country with the largest population on the face of the earth. So of course, there's going to be like immense cultural impact from communism. Like even if your parents move away from communism, they're still going to name their kids after. What's up?
Arun just texted me saying like if you would be interested, he could like hop on and fill in some of the blanks. Or will you be all right with that? Or because he knows
right now,
right? Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it later? Or do you want to like get through all what she does? Yeah,
we can do it now. This is
now. Just impromptu. I mean, like, man, I don't have anything else to do today, so I'll lay down for a bit. You can probably just DM him the link that you want him to join through. But until he joins, I'll talk a bit more about like how the sort of Sri Lankan stuff has kind of informed my YDSA NCC campaign, because that's what this is all about. The whole thing is, right, like you have like groups like that, like these disaffected groups that could potentially be a very big aid to YDSA and should be big aid to YDSA, should work directly with YDSA. Why don't they? Well, we can criticize these other orders for not being conscious enough all we want. At the end of the day, if we want these people's trust, we got to earn it. I mean, that's like that's kind of like my my analysis of this. And like you can't when talking about young people, like people between the ages of 20 to like, let's say, like even as in like 20 to 30, say, like between my age and yours, you can't give up on the liberals. I'm afraid you just can't afford to do it because they're
like here's
hey, what's up, guys? Sorry.
Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for hopping on at the last minute, man.
Yeah, no, I'm actually supposed to stream now. So like but this combo is really interesting. So because again, this topic's like Sri Lanka is like a topic that I've been like yelling about for like at least 2 years at this point. Actually, so
feel free to yell about it some more here. Like I don't know shit about Sri Lanka, man. Okay. I don't think a lot of my chat does. So I'm learning a lot.
2022 uprising, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll make my presence here really quickly because I gotta dip at some point. I'll stay for like 10 minutes, then I gotta dip. Right, cool. But basically, so you mentioned the 2022 uprising, right? So basically, so what happened was the Rajapaksa administration was in power, and then they basically bankrupted the country by austerity measures, tax cuts for the rich, and all that. And so there were already parts of the country, especially the Northeast, which are the Tamil-dominated parts, that were already devastated by the war, right? So they deal with multi-dimensional poverty as well as like a military occupation, because basically the northeastern parts, the Tamil and Muslim-dominated parts of the Northeast, basically the way it works is for every 1 in 6 people, there's a soldier there, right? So at least like 15% of the population in the Northeast are soldiers, straight soldiers. And all the soldiers, by the way, or almost all of the soldiers in the Sri Lankan army are Sinhalese, right? So it is a straight military occupation. So
Sinhalese, those are basically like the white
dominant
people in the United
group.
States, right?
So Sinhala are the dominant ethnic group, right? Okay. And so they were the occupying force in the Northeast, right? So the what was I talking about earlier before I came on? The 2022 thing, right? So what happened, the reason that happened was not because of any real systemic change that happened on the island, right? The main sort of, I guess, contradiction you'll say is Sri Lanka is, you look at the history of Sri Lanka, I'm making a documentary on this, right? So, and it's going to come out in September. But basically, you look at the history of Sri Lanka from 1948 to 2024, and it is in many ways identical to Israel, right? It is identical. From 1948, the moment Sri Lanka gets independence, Sri Lanka starts doing colonization projects in the Tamil-dominated parts of the Northeast, right? So they start doing it from the get-go. They do it from the jump in 1948, right? And they start doing ethnic pogroms against the Tamils over several decades. And then what ends up happening is they reach a point where, you know, the Tamil groups have basically had enough of this, and they go into a full civil war, right? They go into a full war, and basically, and I'm basically condensing all of it, right? So the what happened at the end of it all is that the South got mad at Rajapaksa, and more importantly, the army got mad at Rajapaksa because the funds of the army and the salaries of the army, of the soldiers, were getting affected by Rajapaksa's austerity measures and the bankruptcy. So that's why that happened. It wasn't because of any real systemic change. It wasn't like because the people in the South finally realized like the military occupation, the genocide of the Tamils is wrong. It has nothing to do with that. It is basically because we're now getting affected by the policies of we're getting fucked over by Rajapaksa, by the Rajapaksa family. So that's why the 2022, what's called the Aragalaya, happened, the struggle, right? That's why that happened. It has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with the fact that like anyone had changed their mind seriously. Like it has nothing to do with that. Sorry, what other questions you got?
Nothing. Like I said, I don't know anything about Sri Lanka. I definitely like appreciate yourself and Arjun like educating me about this, because like I try to seek parallels. Like I'm African American, so I try to seek parallels between the struggles that my people have gone through and the struggles of people in the in other parts of the world, right? So when Arjun mentioned that like there's an entire group of people, the Sinhala, that like basically run the whole island, and the Tamil people that basically like under constant military occupation, like I couldn't help but draw parallels between what the Palestinian people are going through and what Black people in the United States went through. Like
there's a whole there's a war on drugs that predominantly affects the Tamils.
Wait, I actually didn't know that part.
Like there were like, there's this recent, failed police operation, this sting operation called Yuktiya. And it was basically like a sting operation. And it was just an excuse to lock up a bunch of people, right? Like, Sri Lanka is...
Arjun, do you want to talk to him about the white van?
Yeah.
That's a very...
White van?
No, dead ass.
No, yeah. So Sri Lanka is the country with the second highest number of enforced disappearances by the state.
AKA kidnappings.
Yes.
So
there are roughly, I think, at least 100,000 people that have been kidnapped by the state over the several decades, right? So this is behind like countries like Syria, Yemen, Iraq, so on and so forth, right?
So when they kidnap you, like, do they take you somewhere and they kill you?
Yes.
Or like, what do they do?
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, they kill you and they throw you in a mass grave.
That's like some Klan shit. Like the Klan used to do that to Black people in the South. Like if you like say you got into an argument with your white landlord or something, like they would literally come in the middle of the night, drag you out of your house, and take you out to the swamp, beat you over the head with something, and throw you in the swamp and let the alligators eat you up.
The difference is the KKK are not necessarily state actors. This is the state doing it.
Jesus Christ.
So this is like a lot of the kidnappings and like, so the reason Arjun brought up white vans is because a lot of it happened in white vans, right? So they would bring white vans to like Tamil people's homes, just grab people off the street, kidnap them, and then we would never hear from them again. And this predominantly affected Tamils. right?
Still haven't heard from them.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I think Arjun may have mentioned this at one point. The war crime. So the specific strategy where Israel.
Let me actually send this to you, BRG.
Gaza, right. The specific strategy in Israel and Gaza, where Israel is setting up these no-fire zones, these safe zones, if you will, around hospitals where people congregate, and then Israel promptly bombs that hospital. Okay, that was done in Sri Lanka in 2009, and in fact, I would wager that Israel took that idea from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, if you look up the Rajapaksa method as it's been coined, it has, I want to say, I'm writing a short article about this, so I should know this off the top of my head.
There's an article by an American think tank called the Investigative Project on Terrorism.
Yes, I'll send this to you, BRG, because it's fucking crazy.
So basically, this is a very Islamophobic, post 9/11, pro-war on terror sort of think tank in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And Elam Thummer dude literally sent this over to me, and that article was basically this think tank was saying, hey, what Mahinda Rajapaksa did in Sri Lanka to the Tamils, which is corral them into hospitals and stuff and bomb them by declaring safe zones, Israel needs to do the same thing. Israel needs to basically engage in kinetic warfare, which is just straight bombing of civilians. They need to wholesale slaughter civilians like Sri Lanka did. And then at the end of that article, they specifically say when the UN starts to grill Israel about human rights abuses, genocide, and all of these accusations,
tell them to go to hell.
Needs to specifically dodge accountability like Sri Lanka did.
It's called the go to hell method. Literally, it's codified in Indian Defense Review. All of a sudden, is starting to get blocked by my browser. So I don't know what happened to that website. But Indian Defense Review, this hawkish Indian war magazine. They talked about this is what the Rajapaksa method. This is how they successfully defeated the terrorists of the Tamil Tigers. And one of their policies was the go to hell method, where ostensibly the line of reasoning, and this is, I believe, it's burned into my brain what the Investigative Project on Terrorism said, right? Where they said, if Israel cared as little about human life as Hamas did, this war would be over in seconds. So because of that, to even question.
By the way, sorry, I have to cut.
Go ahead. Yeah.
A second. I have to. So this is gonna be my last statement before I have to head out. But that's precisely, by the way, there's a lessons learned in reconciliation commission that happened after the war ended in Sri Lanka, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened? What they said? What it was a internal investigation basically done by the Sri Lankan government that was passed as a post-apartheid South Africa Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? What the report said was that obviously there was no wrongdoing on the Sri Lankan government's part, obviously, but more importantly, what they said was it was the LTTE. Now, the LTTE has multiple problems. I want to be perfectly clear about that, right? Multiple issues with LTTE.
So this was the LTTE. That's the Tamil Tigers, right?
Yes.
Tamil Tigers, yes. So there are multiple problems with LTTE, which is why the support for the LTTE is a lot more varied in a sense. It's not as but the point is they say it was the LTTE specifically and not the Sri Lankan government that had no respect for human life. And they said, LTTE used human shields.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
I'm telling you, it is precisely a 1-to-1. If there's a country in South Asia, you can draw a line throughout different points in their history saying that 1-to-1, 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 1-to-1. It's Sri Lanka, not India, not Pakistan, not Bangladesh. It's Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is the country in South Asia that has the most in common with Israel. Wow. And this is, by the way, this is not me just as a political commentator. I'm a political commentator that talks about this stuff, that talks about Sri Lanka. I did a month or two ago, I did a memorial stream on Sri Lanka. right? For the Tamils that were massacred by the Sri Lankan state, right? This is not just me speaking as a Tamil from Tamil Nadu who's seen these war crimes when he was a kid growing up, right? This is not just that. Like, I saw the kids getting, when I was 13, I saw the kids like 12, 11, whatever age it was at the time. I was at the time. I saw those kids getting blown to bits. I saw kids that look like me getting blown to bits, right? So it's not even me as that. This is me as someone who has read the literature, right? Hundreds of articles, several books on the matter, interviewed journalists and human rights lawyers, right? On the matter, right? And one of the journalists that I talked to said, yeah, there's a lot of parallels you can draw between Israel and Sri Lanka. It is terrifyingly similar how two the countries are.
And of course, Israel supplied Sri Lanka with a lot of weapons during the war. Second most, I think, to China, I believe.
Yes.
So wait, socialist China that everybody is saying is going to save the world literally armed a genocide in Sri Lanka.
Oh, so I forgot to mention. No. So there's one more thing I'll add before I go, because this is going to shock everyone. Arjun, I want you to pull up the Sri Lankan Civil War. It's a meme on my channel at this point that you'll see what I mean. But it's something called we affectionately called the list. We're pulling up the list.
The list is on your Twitter, isn't it?
That's the not so yeah. If you look at my Twitter, that's a short version of the list.
The list.
So Arj, DM it to me. I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
I got you. Wait.
Yeah, I'll ruin DM it because I'm having trouble finding it, and then I'll just.
No, I got you. Okay, so, here's what I'm gonna want you to do. Okay, here's the thing: Sri Lankan Civil War, and then on the sidebar, where it says. No, it's in the chat. It's in the actual StreamYard chat.
Oh shit. Oh, here we go.
The list.
Yeah, so scroll down to belligerents, the belligerent section on the side. Okay, you see those show buttons right there on the left?
Military support for Sri Lanka, United States, Israel, China, Russia. Arms supply. India, China, Israel, Pakistan, Iran, United Kingdom, Czech Republic, Spain, Russia, Ukraine. Jesus, it's like the United Nations.
No, and then intel is so the right is a bit more contentious because those are a lot of them are just accusations by the United States.
Like they're buying shit off the black market or something.
Yeah, they're buying shit off the black market. The ones on the left, they're all straight up we've arranged for this. These are all legal sales to. Because the LTTE got most of their arms through the black market.
Mm-hmm. That's how all guerrilla armies get it. They either steal them from police and soldiers that they kill, or they buy them off the black market. But Jesus, it's like the United Nations, China and Russia. Like when you talk to these multipolar weirdos, they're like, "Oh, China and Russia are going to save the world," and here they are, literally funding a genocide of Tamil people. Mm-hmm. Iran, Ukraine, Pakistan. Jesus Christ. I did not know any of this stuff, yo. I did not know that me mistaking Arjun's heritage would lead to a literal...
It's not the first, not the last, I'm not...
I did not mean to do that, but I literally learned a shitload. I did not know any of this. I knew there was a civil war in Sri Lanka, but I did not know that it was basically...
There's an entire book of just straight war crimes the Sri Lankan government has committed against the Tamils. There's an entire book on this. And it's literally just a book with the names of the people massacred by the Sri Lankan military, when it happened, where it happened. It's just a detailed account of all of that. And it goes from 1956 to 2008.
Wow.
And the book is called just Massacres of Tamils. That's it. That's the name of the book.
Massacres of Tamils. Wow.
That's the name of the book.
So it's a book called Massacres of Town. It's kind of like there's a book from the US. It's called We Charge Genocide, and like I read it, and it's like basically all of the dumb shit that the Klan and the southern state governments did to black people. Like they beat the shit out of a dude in South Carolina because he was wearing green on St. Patrick's Day.
Crazy. Yeah, is that true? That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is, because he was a black dude and he wanted to, for whatever reason, he wanted to wear green on St. Patrick's Day, and they just jumped on him and beat the fuck out of him and put him in the hospital.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, the thing with Israel's involvement in Sri Lanka is that it goes significantly deeper than just arms sales. It goes way deeper than that. And there's also other countries. There are countries that are actually not on this particular Wikipedia site that I've mentioned have sold weapons to Sri Lanka. So Argentina has sold weapons to Sri Lanka.
Cuba didn't sell weapons, but I know they were
So Cuba, okay, so it gets worse because when UN votes, there are successive UN resolutions to investigate war crimes done by Sri Lanka. Now, what happened was, in order to basically clean themselves of any responsibilities, the Western Bloc, even though they sold weapons to Sri Lanka, voted yes to investigate Sri Lankan war crimes. So the Western Bloc are all hypocrites for this. But in response to the Western Bloc, you had countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Bolivia saying, well, if these guys are looking to investigate Sri Lanka, we're going to side with Sri Lanka. Which ironically enough, puts Cuba, Venezuela, Bolivia in the same camp as the U.S. Because they're ultimately trying to prop up the Sinhalese Buddhist nationalist state.
Wow.
So it's not just, there's countries I haven't even mentioned on this list, or that Arjun hasn't mentioned yet, that are also complicit in this. I haven't even mentioned it yet. There are countries that I've been following for during the course of my research for the documentary that have also been directly complicit in this.
Well, I definitely look forward to your documentary coming out. I think I watched the trailer earlier with the captions on, so it's not to cut you off, but I definitely look forward to that. This is the fucking genocide, of course, is sickening, but it's amazing how the parallels between what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank.
It's quite I came to Arun for I'm an Ilan Tamil, right? My parents don't really talk about the genocide that much, but just vaguely looking, I'm like, hey, there's some kind of weird similarities here, especially with the talking. And then I started talking about it more. I knew more about Israel Palestine before I even knew about this. I'm fucking Ilan Tamil, right? And then I came to Arun about it. He was very graceful to talk to me about it and let me in on some of his creative process. And now I know so much more about it. And yeah, it's nearly a 1-to-1. It's just, and it tells us a lot about how Palestine is headed, and Arun talked to me about this. And I'm not going to make you talk about it, Arun, because you got to go, I think. But it closed the political space for a potential Tamil Eelam in the future. Tamil Eelam being the goal of a separate state, right? Because it was so brutal, and the world was so complicit in allowing it to happen, that that Tamil Eelam is not a flicker of a dream. It's not even on the table anymore, because it was
to give you an idea of the situation of the political movement right now. The remaining political movements in Sri Lanka are basically the families of the disappeared. That's probably the biggest one, which is basically a political movement that has been, protest that has been going on for 7 years, every single day, no interruption, since 2017. And it's basically demanding the government return the remains of their families that have been disappeared. That's the level, autonomy is off the table. Federalism is off the table, which is hey, can we have autonomy within Sri Lanka? Can we have a provincial council? Can we have administration over our own land? Can we have our own police unit? At least, please, can we have that? That's off the table. That's gone now. Now they're just begging for a crumb of justice. And even then, Sri Lanka is fuck you. We're not giving you anything. We're going to continue to take.
And what does that tell you about Israel's plan, right? It's to associate Palestinian self-determination with so much brutality, with so much violence, that forget river to the sea, even the mention of like of the incredibly weak idea of a two-state solution even being brought up in the UN is like a scary concept now, because it might lead to more backlash, which is why it's very important for American leftists, for West leftists, to keep hitting the line and to keep that space open by continually putting it forward as something that must be fought for. Because if we don't, and we leave it to the Palestinians, then Israel now has full ability to associate that with so much incredible brutality that that for their own survival, an entire race of people may be forced to give up on their hopes of self-determination. And it happened with the Tamils. It cannot happen again, no matter what. It simply cannot.
Yeah. And it's very similar, like, to the treatment of Black people in the United States. Like, for 500 years, like, we have not been like advocates of, like, the majority of Black people do not want to destroy America. Right. What we want is, well, I do, but I'm a Maoist. Most Black people in the United States are not. But like, reparations, basic shit. Treat us like human beings. Stop fucking killing us. And then they refuse to do that. So eventually, like, this is how revolutionary ideas come. They're like, you know what? Fuck you. Okay, you don't want us to be a part of this country. You know what? Fuck you. Fuck this country that enslaved us and that did horrible things to our ancestors. Now we want our own land. That's how the Nation of Islam and other nationalist type groups came up. Like, if you deny people basic rights of self-determination, like Sri Lanka, Israel, the United States, Australia, like, the main thing is either reduce these people to slaves so that you can use their labor without paying them, or just kill them all and take their land. Like, that's what America tried to do to Puerto Rico. Like, they literally tried to give.
It's the second one.
Yeah,
they want land. That's what's really bogging. Like,
that's why Sri Lanka is considered a settler colonial state by a lot of people on the left. Wow. And by a lot of people, I mean like. Well,
us. I mean, a lot of people on the
left. Yeah, a lot of people who are knowledgeable about the situation.
It's no one knows about this.
No one knows about
I'm definitely a lot more knowledgeable than I was. Like I said, I knew nothing. Like, all I knew was that there'd been a civil war.
Like, I've been yelling. My entire existence on Twitch for quite a while was just going to every bloody stream I could and seeing, like, hey, I'm going to talk about Tamil genocide. Will you please give a shit? Like, that was basically my existence.
It's just not talking about. Like, I found Arun through Hassan. Like, I really didn't know much about the Tamil genocide, even though it was my people. Like, I've been to Sri Lanka, I've seen it firsthand, and I'm like, wow, this is awful. What happened here exactly? Didn't really know. There's not a lot of resources on it.
There are
a lot.
There are, but they're incredibly scattered.
They're scattered, and I can't read them. So
no, it's not even like they're. No, like, it's not. That's not even what the situation is regarding the literature. It's there for you to read. One, but because no one cares about it, people have just genuinely kind of agreed, like, no, whatever Sri Lanka did is right. Like, it's just kind of the. I can answer that in a second. Why is Sri Lanka a socialist republic?
We're not eating up my chat. My chat isn't eating up your whole stream, is it? Because I know you said you had to go.
No, I gotta go. I said I made an announcement on Twitter. I'll be on in 15 minutes. It's all just right, cool. Like I just got partnered, and so I just want to, like, celebrate by playing some video games or whatever. So that's why I was like, I'll get on in a few.
But for that chatter, like, Arun talks about this stuff all the time, and, like, you can absolutely go follow.
The communists in Sri Lanka are also, like, garbage.
Are shit, yeah. Well, they don't believe that Tamils have a right to self-determination.
They're garbage, like, straight up garbage. I'm sorry to say. No, and I'll tell you what I mean. Like, the communists in Sri Lanka have only ever consistently sided with the Sinhalese nationalists.
That sounds kind of like the communists in the United States that denied the right to self-determination for indigenous people and for other colonized people.
Quite literally. I mean, that's basically the same thing. They're like, they had an uprising in 87 to 89, but even during that uprising, they were basically saying, like, Lenin's right of nations to self-determination does not apply to the Tamils. They literally said that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they said it does not apply in the Sri Lankan context. Tamils are bourgeois, like, reactionaries, and they don't deserve any rights, basically. And eventually they became the largest, the JVP in particular, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, the largest communist party, became became the biggest cheerleaders of the war crimes that the Rajapaksa administration.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So what the JVP
and these are communists?
Yeah. So these JVP fuckers, what they would do is they would go into military camps and basically give like the sergeants and the military officers and the soldiers pep talks, saying like, you have to win back the fatherland. You have to win back the fatherland from the terrorists. They would do that. That was a common practice. Another thing that they did was in 2005, which is right around the time Rajapaksa won. So this is when the tsunami hit, right? Sri Lanka, right? So this is the Boxing Day tsunami, right? So they threatened to walk out. That's just me memeing with my friend. That's all. It's just me.
I don't see myself on here. I guess I'm chopped liver. I should be up here at the top, but I guess I'm chopped liver. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not important enough to be on lists like this.
Yeah, and then that tweet you're talking about is about caste in India. That's another thing I don't want to unpack right now. But basically, these guys, they threatened to walk out. There's a power sharing arrangement such that the LTTE, which had de facto control of the Tamil dominated regions at the time, they wanted to work with the Sri Lankan government to distribute aid, right? And so what they did was so it was the Bandaranaike and then Rajapaksa administration that did this. And then the JVP specifically said, we are going to walk out of this administration. They were in a coalition with the ruling party, the SLFP, right? And they threatened to walk out of the ruling coalition because they wanted to work with the LTTE to distribute aid to the tsunami victims. 30,000 people died as a result of the tsunami. Right? So the JVP was like, if you even dare distribute aid to the tsunami victims, we'll walk out. We'll riot, we'll go into the streets, we'll riot, and we'll start writing up that's like
the tweet you're on is not about Sri Lanka. The tweet you're on is about the Dalit leader that was hacked to death.
Yeah, I was just interested. I was trying to see if Twitter would translate Tamil.
Yeah, there's a leader in my home state, Tamil Nadu in India, where the guy was just hacked to death, like immediately in the streets.
A few days ago, right?
Yeah, last week, yeah.
Last week, yeah.
Shit that's going on over there makes the U.S. look like fucking paradise. Just chop dudes up in the street.
Oh, that's common. Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, okay.
It's very it's caste-based violence.
Chopping up a leader is like not common, to be fair. But like crimes against people are like that's very common. Like that kind of stuff.
Especially if you're a woman.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah, I know like femicide and like acid attacks and stuff like that is really big over there.
Oh yeah.
Like I was reading, I can't remember. It was something on a documentary, but like there were a bunch of they were talking to a bunch of girls and like people would just come up to them on the street and throw acid in their face. I'm like, what who the fuck does that shit?
That's another conversation. That's a whole nother conversation.
It's wild.
But yeah, the JVP were such psychopaths that they threatened to basically just walk out of the current administration because they wanted to help the Tamils. Like that one of the few good things that the SLFP administration did was they wanted to help distribute aid to the Tamils, and that meant compromising with the LTTE. But because that meant compromising with the LTTE, the communists said, we're going to walk out because reclaiming the motherland is more important than distributing aid to the Tamils.
Those were no communists. Those were fascists, man. Communists don't act like that.
Oh,
real communists. Communists, anyways.
Oh, they're not. Yeah, they cannot claim any real leftist credentials.
Yeah, but those are fucking fascists.
Oh, but the other thing is like there's a new alliance that just formed recently, and it's basically Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists. And one of the parties in that particular alliance is the Communist Party of Sri Lanka.
Wow. Well,
so even the so-called left wing in Sri Lanka is like gone. Like this is not. It's a non-starter to begin with.
Man.
Because you bring up Tamil rights, and it's like no, the most important thing is like establishing a socialist state. We must work on the base because Tamil rights are part of the superstructure. And
you can't you can't have a socialist state if you're still fucking over a large chunk of your population.
Like dialectical analysis, base superstructure, dialectical analysis. They'll use Marxist language to justify this.
Yeah, all social fascist parties do. Yeah. I apologize on behalf of my ideological. Well, the matter of fact, I don't have to apologize because those people aren't even communists in the first place. Communists don't go to pep talks when soldiers are getting ready to go out and massacre innocent people. Yes.
Yeah, that's basically how messed up the situation is in Sri Lanka. There's basically no left wing to speak of.
Jesus.
That isn't like compromised by fascists. Like
I cannot.
I was talking about, like, and this is I swear to God, this is my last comment before I go.
You're good.
This is actually my last comment. But the Sri Lankan elections are coming up, and it's the most useless election I've ever seen. It's more
more useless than the American election.
Oh, far more.
Oh yeah.
Not even. No. America is like no. America is like how do I explain it? It's like in comparison to what Sri Lanka's elections are going to be, it's like you're having it would be like Bernie Sanders running against like Elizabeth Warren here, or it'd be like even like I mean Bernie Sanders has his own problems, but like it would be like a very progressive candidate, incredibly left-wing candidate versus another left-wing candidate, or like a right-wing candidate, or like it'd be meaningful, right? In Sri Lanka, it's which flavor of Sinhalese nationalist do you like? Do you like the Sinhalese nationalist that sucks up to the West and Israel? Do you like the Sinhalese nationalist that pretends to be communist? Do you like the Sinhalese nationalists that are open Sinhalese nationalists? Or do you like the slightly left of center Sinhalese nationalists that were an offshoot of the neoliberal Sinhalese nationalists? Those are your four options. Ranil Wickramasinghe, Sajid Premadasa, Anurag Kumar Dissanayake, and I mean, whoever the fuck is going to run in Rajapaksa's camp, like whether it's Namal Rajapaksa or Gotabaya Rajapaksa, I don't know. That can't be either, right?
How many of these people are there? Is it like the mafia family in Sri Lanka?
Oh, yeah, no, they're all related. By the way, that's the other thing. They're all related to each other.
Hey,
like
that's a mafia, man.
The current president's uncle was the president of Sri Lanka, and his cousins, his distant cousins, were the first two prime ministers of Sri Lanka. So he's related to Prime Minister 1, Prime Minister number 2, and then another president.
It's kind of like the Gandhis in India, I guess.
No, it's worse than that.
Yeah.
No, it's worse than that. They're all related in some way to each other. That's how, like, Sri Lanka's nepotism goes crazy. But anyways, I gotta hop off. Thank you so much for having me. I know it was.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm always down to like let people talk about like the issues that their colonized people, that their oppressed nations have faced, and I've definitely learned a lot. Like before you came on, before I talked to Arjun, I knew shit all about Sri Lanka. Now I still know shit all about Sri Lanka, but I know less shit all than I did before.
That's the goal.
I really, really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you later.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. So
back to YDSA.
Yeah. Literally all of this because I thought you were Indian.
No, I know. Listen, perfect opportunity. That's the perfect opportunity for me to talk about this shit, right?
All right. So YDSA, I've got Bryce actually sent me you all's convention bulletin. I don't know if I'm supposed to have this or not, but
I'm sure I think it's public. Yeah. Go. You can.
All right. So, your involvement with YDSA, you worked on the Palestine Liberation Organizing Committee, the Youth Growth and Development Committee.
Yeah. So, okay. So wait, sorry. Is this the one where I wrote like 3 sentences where everybody else wrote paragraphs?
It is. It's like 3 paragraphs.
So if I may defend myself a little bit here.
You don't have to defend yourself. That Benadryl got you like that.
No, the Benadryl got me like that. Pat, I am on Benadryl right now. Let's just say it was that. No, I was like, oh, this is just like a little like thing. So like people like know I'm not bullshitting when I send in this application, and then it fucking goes public, and everyone else has these like well thought out paragraphs.
Yeah, like I'm just
why they did it, and then I just wrote like, yeah, I did this one time.
You are a proletarian. That is how the proletariat writes.
Listen, man. I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple guy.
It's going to be funny as hell when I talk to Bryce tomorrow because his Princeton ass, he wrote like 15 fucking paragraphs. It's all right. You all are, both of you guys are good, and I hope both of you get elected to the NCC just for the fucking memes alone.
Listen, man, the reason it's so simple is because it's like I prefer to like talk about this stuff. Like I much prefer speaking to.
Oh, that you surely can do. You definitely can talk.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I'm taking that as a compliment.
It is.
But, with my stuff with Palestine, right? I sort of came in to YDSA National. Like I got much more involved with it. I was always like somewhat aware of it, right? I got a lot more involved with it, especially with around the Palestine stuff, because of Purdue YDSA's a very tight connection with our local SJP chapter, which was rare. Even for YDSA chapters, this was rare. Why was it rare? Well, obviously we already talked about SJP and DSA, right? But with YDSA, when it came to the encampments, right, there was like this. You would read a lot about like some friction, where YDSA and SJP would kind of like, oh, they don't really agree, or SJP is too insular, whatever. The reason that was different at Purdue is because even before October 7th, we had like a tenuous relationship with them. But during October 7th, we were showing up to protests. We were saying, hey, what are your asks? You are Palestinian. We on the left support Palestine no matter what. What are your asks? What can we do for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's how leftists should always be. Like, you cannot just, like, the main thing that pisses me off about, like, certain leftist groups that I'm not going to name is that, like, they always show up, they bring their propaganda, they bring their banners and stuff, and they immediately hop right to the front of the march so that it looks like they're leading it. I mean, don't do that. Like, a lot of people got in trouble like that. The RCP, Socialist Alternative, a lot of groups like that got in trouble in Ferguson because, like,
and here's the thing, BRG. If you're a talented organizer, right, and you are concise, friendly, and passionate, knowledgeable, and a good organizer, they will ask you to come speak. They will ask you to help lead with them, which is what happened with SJP. We were speaking with them. I was up there speaking next to Johnny, who's my great Palestinian comrade, because we helped plan the whole thing, because we were there right away, because we helped vet everything, because we helped figure everything out. And even then, we were like, hey, man, who do you want speaking? And he's like, well, you're a good speaker. I want you up there because I know you. Great, right? This person from DSA is a good speaker because they're always there and they're so passionate. Come on up. Hey, and the best thing, right? After a few months, now SJP is like, hey, we're thinking of having this event. What do you think? Can you help us out with this? Of course we can. Absolutely. Yeah, we can help help get out this get out this event where you're having a professor come and speak. 1000% we can do that.
And a lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are hurt. They get their feelings hurt because, like, oh, why didn't they invite us to this? Because you weren't there. Or when you were there, you made an absolute ass out of yourself. Like, the main advice that I would have, and I think you would agree to leftists, is like, make yourself fucking useful.
1000%. Which is why, and I talked about this during the debate, and I think I mentioned it briefly, right? But when I meet with a chapter, and I don't really meet with a lot of chapters right now. I'm not on the NCC. But when I meet with a chapter, I don't just want to hear what your chapter's doing. I, of course, want to hear what your chapter's doing. But I want to hear what your university's doing. What are the broader coalition of university students feeling right now? Is there like a housing crisis, something like that going on? What are the liberals doing? Are they trying to like get what are the are they gonna get like contraceptives campaign, which is like an issue that's widely felt even among like disaffected liberals? How can DSA help with that? Is the Black Student Union asking for a cultural center? Is the Arab Student Union asking for a cultural center? Here in Purdue, the SWANA, with the Southwest Asian North African Student Union, we have a lot of cultural centers. They don't have one. They've been agitating for one for years. DSA should be like, hey, this is a space that this group wants. It provides a lot of benefits. It's something that the community wants. We will help agitate for it. I want to hear not just what you're doing to advance a socialist cause, but what you're doing to advance your community's cause in a socialist in a socialist mode of organizing, and therefore promoting that socialist mode of organizing, so that when these people who you help out with, right, who are kind of like, let's say like they're like left curious, let's say, well, now they're going to go and they'll be like, oh shit, well, I want to help out with these guys. Well, I don't feel comfortable joining the Black Student Union on their protest. I'm not black or whatever. But I see DSA is helping organize it. I know DSA. They're cool guys. I'll go and help with them. And then, because I know that the DSA people will come back to us with their meeting with the BSU and say, hey, the BSU wants this and this. Who can do this? Who can do this? How can we get this done? How can we get this done? That intersectionality is crucial. And the thing is, right, labor and intersectionality inexplicably interlinked. But the majority of people you find on college campuses, we're going to know a lot more about talks of race, about talks of Palestine, about stuff like that, than they will about labor. And the ones who already know about all that stuff's interconnected are hopefully already part of your organization, right? But through that education, it will quickly become apparent to them the only way they can truly agitate for the progress that they seek is through that of labor. And who helps them do that? YDSA. It has to be YDSA. Or rather, what I mean by that is, not that it has to, is like no other organization can do it, but YDSA has to have the capacity to do that thing. Because that is how YDSA becomes the premier radicalizing element on campus. Now, it's a current kind of like sort of meme in like political right-wing discourse. And when I say right-wing, I mean right in like DSA, I mean like right-wing as in like America, like what the average American thinks of right-wing. That college is like a fucking like Marxist cesspool or whatever, right? Shit like that. But the thing
college is a liberal cesspool, and
that's
an appendage of the military-industrial complex at worst, or both in most cases.
We can talk about the Purdue specifically. That's also what I was going to get to next after I finish this little spiel about the military shit. But like what DSA has to be able to do is to act as a place so that when people come in here, because the reason the reason like so many people identify as liberals these days is because liberals are seen as the party that care about, in the broad political consciousness of like people who aren't very tapped in. Liberals are seen as the guys who care about black people, right? Now, you and I know that's not true. You and I know that's much.
I sure as fuck know that's not true.
Yeah, exactly, right? But
make a liberal mad, and you'll like see how much they care about black people.
No, literally, of course. But the average person doesn't know that, and so when the average person comes and identifies as a liberal, because they're like, well, I don't hate black people. Conservatives hate black people. And if you're not a conservative and you're not a centrist, you're a liberal. So on and so forth, right? You can't afford to lose those people because those people are prime for radicalization. And they can be incredibly talented organizers if you just give them the right push and educate them in the right way, which is what I built a lot of my thing, which is also why I'm not affiliated with the caucus. I kind of like, I haven't like tried to go for any caucus endorsements, but I'm much more of like a, I was much more like kind of like, hey, like I'm trying to be like an independent, like big tent kind of guy. Like people who are not like necessarily don't feel comfortable like espousing with the views of a certain caucus or whatever should feel comfortable to still be involved in national.
And honestly, I think that would make you like, I think staying out of various faction, caucus, whatever politics, I think that can actually be more of an asset to you. Because like I think you'll get a lot more support if people don't know that he's with so and so. I don't like them because they wrote this shitty article. So I definitely think that like being independent and unaffiliated with the caucus might serve to your benefit in future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the same line of thinking I have.
It's like of all the bullshit, unnecessary bullshit that I've seen pop up in DSA, like 90% of it was because of faction fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like here's the thing. The average DSA, like the average person who like joins their local DSA chapter because they like the campaigns they're running, and then they
don't know shit about these talks.
And here's the thing: they want to get more involved or whatever. Mm-hmm. They want to get more involved in national organizing. You know, they have a little bit of like a little pep in their step from a successful campaign or whatever. Now they gotta fucking deal with like, oh, what did X caucus say in the latest article? All this shit, right?
Yeah, and
here's the thing: caucuses have a very distinct place there. I really like the idea of caucuses in the fact that it's where diverging leftist theory goes to compete in like the marketplace of ideas or whatever, right? But not everybody's ready for that yet. And DSA needs to be able to lift people into a place where they can do that.
Most of it is because of the trots and reform and revolt or whatever the fuck their acronym stands for, and so Tim's and groundwork. I have friends in both of those caucuses.
I have no thoughts on any specific caucus.
There you go. See, you're smart, Arjun. This is spoken like a man that's going to be on YDSA's NCC.
One can only hope.
Is it Reform and Revolution?
It's Reform and Revolution, yeah.
There we go. I'm getting old Enjoy your 20s, because as soon as you hit 30, you're going to automatically forget.
Dude, I'm sure like Daniel from Reform Revolution would come on and like talk to you about this shit if you wanted to.
Is he running for NCC?
He's YDSA NCC. He's the R&R candidate. I think the only one.
Daniel Sapunkov?
No, Daniel Sapunkov is Bread and Roses, I believe.
Oh, see, that's but yeah, I don't want people saying that. Oh, you favored this guy, or you.
I'd love it if you favored me. That'd be great, personally.
My vote doesn't matter. I'm not in YDSA.
That's true.
Dude, I haven't been in college since fucking 2018, and I have no business in YDSA. I'm just meddling in the election, I guess.
Right. Well, no, I do really thank you for having this platform.
I mean, you all asked. Y'all asked.
Yeah.
Like I was not gonna be like, let's see what trouble I can make with YDSA.
No,
but I'm really glad you're.
There's actually, you find you have Daniel Sapunkov. There's two Daniel S's. There's Daniel Sapunkov and Daniel SC, who's R&R. And you know, I disagree with our politics from time to time. Daniel's a pretty talented guy. He's a pretty smart guy. He's very you know, he like I talked to the debate. I'm like, that guy, he has like a very real fighting chance, and he has some good ideas to bring to the table.
Why do people keep asking me when I'm going to start a DSA Maoist caucus? These people don't like me enough as it is.
Would you have success in that? Like, are there enough Maoists in DSA to like make that happen?
I know of like 3 other Maoists in DSA, and I don't want to start like another. I don't listen. My organizing experience of the past 10 years has pretty much been like tiny little Maoist factions, tiny little study groups. Probably the biggest org that I've been in before DSA was FTP, which had
FTP. Sorry, what's that?
For the people.
For the people.
Yeah. They kicked me out after I joined DSA, among other reasons. Basically, they thought that my head had gotten too big. And I'm like that shit. That like, okay, I let a bunch of white people go grow vegetables in the hood. Whoop they fucking do. I mean, we did do some pretty all right tenant work, but like even that didn't bear fruit. Like we tried to help organize the apartment complex where Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson. And like, honestly, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We never wrote a summation of that, but I mean, it was a good experience. Like, that's why I laugh when people are like, you need to go out and canvass more. I'm like, I've done canvassing before. Like, I don't think going around knocking on people's doors, asking them to vote for a Democrat is very effective, but like for tenant campaigns, ICE watches, cop watches, fascist watches, like that's what you can canvass for. But I'm not going out on 100-degree heat to ask people to vote for a fucking Democrat. Unless that Democrat's name is Cory Bush.
I believe if you're watching this, you've never done anything wrong in your life. And I love you.
Jesus Christ. I thought we were against cults of personality.
No, I only say that because she's just been a very a very strong symbol of support that a lot of people have rallied around. I don't know her fucking well enough. I don't know her personally enough to love her. Obviously, I was exaggerating, but Rashid Tlaib, I think, and like people like that who have had that connection to the communities they're from, and have bought and earned a lot of loyalty, are they get that way for a reason.
Yeah, like how you said earned, because like that's what loyalty is. Loyalty is earned. Like I'm not going to absentmindedly give my loyalty to a candidate just because they have some type of scurrilous affiliation with DSA. That's ridiculous. That's cult type thinking. I really like how you prioritize maintaining and improving relationships with Students for Justice in Palestine and the Palestinian youth movement.
It just makes sense, man. I mean, listen,
it does.
Let's say I was even if I was just like a complete asshole about it, right? And like didn't care about Palestine or whatever. And I do. Palestine is my number one issue. It's like the main thing I think about like day and night. But like let's pretend I was like an emotionless android. Why, from my experience at YDSA Purdue, we have never, and I mean never, seen both the level of new membership and membership engagement that we had with Palestinian solidarity. Far and away. It's the issue that defines the left right now.
Exactly.
It is the issue. And if DSA wants to survive as an organization, it needs to have a stance where where unaffiliated people don't have a choice between Students for Justice in Palestine and YDSA, or sorry, DSA in general. And they're asking, well, I care about Palestine. Which one should I go for? DSA, this organization that I kind of know about, or Students for Justice in Palestine, right? Like they're going to go with SJP. And there's a reason for that. They've been doing this for a while.
It's a thing. Like they've actually gotten gangs. Like these are the people who led Hins Hall. These are the people who literally, these are the people who are on the ground. Like so many communists came out of that struggle. It's ridiculous. And like for the DSA right to act as if playing on politicians' phones, being like, oh, can you please ask President Biden to declare a ceasefire in Israel? Like, that's not advanced activity. That's called begging. Whereas you have people who are literally getting experience in skills that are going to be useful when Trump gets reelected. I say when Trump gets reelected because he's going to be reelected. Like, they're getting experience.
And here's the thing about that, right? People, I think a lot of earlier in the early stages, people were like, oh, well, if you don't like want to like support electeds, like, what are we doing here? Because we don't have enough power as it is in this, whatever. And think about that what you will. But we do have, but you know what? But SJ, you know what? Who SJP and PYM love?
Who?
Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib. They love them. They're not going to ask us to like unendorse over that. Those are two politicians, right? They work in the field. They have the power that we seek, and they are supported because what they prove is that it is possible to hold office and have a principled stance on Palestine.
Yeah,
that's all we're asking, right? That's all we're asking. Like, not a big ask, not a huge ask. And I'm saying this as someone who has been historically incredibly soft on AOC. I was always like, oh, you know, man, she's just playing the field, man. Like she's got to say this, but I know she doesn't really believe it.
You can never accuse me of being historic. You can never accuse me of being historically soft on AOC. I've never liked her.
Well, and that's
I guess because I've been a Maoist for almost 10 years.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like I've been like, you know what, man, like we got to do this, so on and so forth. But and I was like, but like, and which is why I was very grateful that DSA ended up doing the conditional.
Shit. Honestly, it took me a long time to come around to Cori Bush. It took me a long time. Like there was a time, like if you know anything about the history of the Maoist movement over the past 10, 20 years in this country, like we have always been strict electoral abstentionists.
Nothing about the history. That's my Sri Lanka. That's you. That's my version of you in Sri Lanka. I know nothing about America.
Basically, our line throughout the 2010s was "Don't vote, revolt."
Okay.
And like, if you like, that's to be a Maoist. Like in 2016, 2017, you had to have spray painted that on a vacant building at least once.
Okay.
Don't vote, revolt. So it actually took me quite a while to realize, probably because like the people were voting, they weren't revolting.
Right.
Well, they did revolt in 2020, but it wasn't because of some shit that a college Maoist spray painted on a fucking concrete median. Anyways,
the point of DSA these organizations should not be like the end goal of like exposing people to like the futility of the American electoral process should not be categorized in the terms of like not voting, right? Because that's just because for all these people who think voting is the highest form of civic duty, that's not going to persuade them at all. What you should be doing is saying, hey, you voted? It's fucking cool, man. That's cool. Do other shit, right? Like it should be like we shouldn't even be talking to people about like voting or not voting. We should be talking about on the ground organizing and voting as the lowest form of civic engagement. Because it's just not, and this is a bit of a controversial take, I understand, but it's simply not persuasive for us to maintain you see all those memes where it's like, oh, bad government, like vote them out, and then somebody crosses that like bad government, kill them or whatever, right? And like that's funny, but to the average uninitiated person who could very well be a part of our organization and be a good team player, they're going to see that and be like, oh, these guys are just fucking crazy. They don't live in reality, so on and so forth. And because that's become the line where it used to be just kind of like an understood, like silent thing, but now that's become the open line. A lot of people we're now losing an entryway for a lot of people. A lot of DSA members probably started as like people who were like I mean, and when I say this, I mean like very young DSA members, like younger than me, right? A lot of a lot of DSA members probably came in like who were like, oh yeah, who like probably like popped the fuck off when Biden won, right? Like stuff like that, and they're not going to be convinced by like being like, oh, don't vote, just kill people, because they don't see people killing people, so they're like, oh well, I guess they're not doing that. I might as well do the thing that I know people are doing, so I have some sense of communal movement.
726 people are watching this.
Really?
Yeah, you're famous, Arjun.
Oh wow! Hi everybody.
Yeah, it's probably because I'm streaming on Twitter. That's where most of my followers are.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
I do want to hear your thoughts about this though. And here's the thing, right? I'm not a stubborn guy. If you DM me and you're like, Arjun, you're wrong and too stupid, I'll be like, okay, harsh, but explain. And they list a cogent argument for like, hey, I think you're wrong on this because of this, this, and this. I promise you I'll listen to it. I will. I really will. I've changed my mind before. I'm certainly going to change my mind again. But like but from what I know, this is what I believe, and I'm very open to talk to you about this, and or talk to anybody about this, talk to anybody leftist, obviously, but like talk to leftists about what the optimal strategy is. And if I see evidence that a different strategy is more optimal, absolutely go for it. But from what I see, this is what I believe is the path forward. One thing I really try to avoid is like post hoc rationalization for one's own organizational strategy. Like, which is, God damn it, Bryce! Don't fucking throw me off like this. But
it's all right. You can come and troll his little fucking thing tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I absolutely will. No, but like, listen, I mean, that's like the whole thing about my campaign, right? It's like we gotta, figure out what works and go for it, but we got to figure out something. And this is just my perspective that I just haven't seen echoed in a lot of leftist spaces because of. And I'm not going to act like I don't know why it hasn't been echoed. It's because because when you hear when a leftist person who's like in tune with this hears fucking, oh, we got to vote for the 1000th time, of course they're going to say this is bullshit. What the fuck are we doing? Right? Of course they're going to say that. But what I'm concerned with is, but I already know that those people know what's up. I already know that those people are going to be allies in the revolution. I'm concerned with bringing people who don't know that, but whose heart is in the right place, who need a little push who will join an organization based on a good campaign, because that's all it takes. One good campaign is all it takes to turn someone into a leftist. I believe this. Mm-hmm. One good campaign, right?
Yeah. That's more. People learn through experience. Like that's what a lot of these.
That's exactly the thing. Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, Mao would call it learning through practice. But that's what a lot of these trots don't understand. That's why they never get any people, no matter how many newspapers they hand out, because it's not real. Like, why do people join the black?
Aren't the Trot caucuses like the biggest ones?
I'm not talking about like the caucuses within DSA. I'm talking about groups like the RCA, the IMT, the International Basement Tendency, those types of people.
For sure.
So they have a very commandist understanding of politics. Like they just think that if they sell enough newspapers, if they pound enough ideas into people's heads, then they're going to make a revolution. That's not how that works. I don't think R&R is the only Trot caucus. I think Bread and Roses is also Trotsky inspired.
I believe that's accurate. I'm no expert, but
yeah. So I really, really like this. I'm actually trying to get a version of this passed in STL.
R1, you mean?
Yeah, R1.
So here's the thing about R1, and I do want to talk about this, right? R1 is, in my personal opinion, R1, the methodology of it, like what it actually does, is not as strong as it could be. It could be fixed with a few amendments there. I think it maybe unintentionally prioritizes expulsion over re-education, which I don't think was its original purpose. Whatever. But one thing I will not let happen is seeing a tweet go up from somebody saying DSA has rejected, or YDSA has rejected a resolution affirming them as an anti-Zionist organization, because simply that can't be allowed to happen. And I don't really see harm in R1. I think it could be better, but like it also certainly could be much worse. So I think I will probably be voting yes for it, because I don't see much potential for harm.
Abel Amity, I met him in DC last week.
Really interesting.
Yeah, good dude. Really good.
I haven't had the pleasure, but I've seen him on the discussion boards and such.
Yeah, he's a good dude. But I've just been looking through like I said, Bryce sent me this a couple days ago. I guess he's the YDSA leaker.
I think this is public on like the convention website or something.
Yeah, he's leaking all of you all's internal documents to aging millennials like me. But a lot of these, just by looking through them, they're very good. Like shit, I might even go so far as to say that YDSA is the vanguard of the entire organization.
Well, if you think that, then you might need to talk to some of our DSA NPC comrades about the budget.
Oh, they're still trying to fuck with you all's budget.
Listen, man,
What do they think that you all live off of? They think that, oh yeah, let's take away the fucking kids' ice cream. They don't need it anymore. They've been bad.
Listen, I understand that DSA is going through some financial hard times. Like I'm sympathetic to that, but like YDSA, in my opinion, and obviously I'm biased, but in my opinion, YDSA is too crucial an avenue of the organization to be cutting funds from like this.
If I was on the national NPC, I would vote to take all of the money in the organization and give it to you guys.
That would be very. I don't think we need that much money because we still have to pay staff. Although staff were laid off, but like,
well, not all of them. I think
not all of them, but there were layoffs.
That's that was a nasty fucking.
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. But
that was a nasty fucking fight.
But listen, if there are any like, you know, I guess we call them big DSA. Any big DSA members watching out at the 700, who
they probably are,
which they probably are, you know, fucking, you know, make some noise. Be like, hey, I want to like come next convention season. Let's make it a policy of our chapter to protect YDSA budget. That would be very nice.
You can cut there's a lot of other shit in DSA that you can cut besides fucking, you know, besides y'all's fucking money.
Yeah.
Sit in at DSA HQ until we get our budget, or just give the entire NPC struggle sessions. I mean, you all are basically the Maoists of the org. Shit, they're talking about winning.
YDSA are the Maoists of the org. Is that what you said?
Yeah. You all are the little red guards. You all are the little red guards. Like they're asking when I'm going to start the caucus. We already got a fucking Maoist caucus.
Is there have you gone through and looked at some of the other resolutions being proposed?
No, because I have a life. I'm joking.
You know what? Hey, no, don't apologize. that's the correct. You're not in YDSA. That's the correct thing to say. I don't know why I fucking asked. Why would anybody not in YDSA?
Why would I read all this stuff and I'm not even?
You're absolutely correct. You're correct. That was a stupid fucking question.
I'm not even in fucking YDSA, man. This is y'all's business. But like I said, from what I've seen, it's very advanced stuff. I could definitely tell you all are a bunch of college students. This is how I wrote when I was in college. Mm-hmm. What's your major, by the way, Arjun?
My major is so I had a fucking whole thing. So I got into Purdue for computer science, and it was too hard. It was just I didn't really fuck with it. So computer science is my minor now because I'm already doing it, but I'm doing brain and behavioral science, and I'm going for law school.
I could definitely tell that you're a future lawyer.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah. I'm on the wait list at 2 law schools.
Really?
I guess they're trying to figure out whether or not to let in one of the most famous Maoists in the country. I mean, he's already dangerous enough with a Twitch stream. Do we really want to turn this dude loose with the law degree?
Listen, man.
Actually, it's probably because I tanked my GPA undergrad with fucking.
No, same. My GPA is the weakest part of my thing. I was a computer science. I fucking flunked out of computer science, bro. That shit that does things to your GPA.
Yeah, what was I think my GPA was like 3.1, low 3, something like that.
Yeah, mine's worse. So I'm just gonna leave it there, but mine's worse. It's not GPA is not my strong suit. Although maybe if I cite it as like individual, like this is my GPA in this major and this is my GPA in this minor, maybe they'll ignore that.
The proletariat doesn't care what your GPA is. So do you have a handsome little cat like Bryce does?
I do not. I don't have any pets actually.
Well, I already prefer Bryce.
I own every Pokemon game though.
Pokemon.
So that's what I got.
You need to get a cat.
I would love a cat. I would love a cat.
All communists have to have cats.
I've heard this, and all cats are Muslim, as I've also heard.
You're a revisionist.
All cats. All right.
One thing that's missing from your platform is: do you support the formation of the Libertarian Socialist Caucus Mao Spontex subcaucus?
And maybe this is a dumb question, but what is Spontex?
Okay, so it's basically a Maoist anarchist hybrid.
Okay,
it came out of France, like most weird shit.
Look, I'm not that's Chatter is joking, obviously, but that's a Bryce question. I'm gonna leave that to Bryce. He's LSD. He'll fucking deal with that shit.
The term Mao Spontex refers to a syncretic Marxist and left libertarian political tendency in France that arose after the 68 protests that lasted until around 72. The name is a portmanteau of Maoist and spontaneist, while the reference to Spontex, a French cleaning sponge brand, is a reappropriation of name calling which disparaged the movement's anti-authoritarian approach to the revolution. I actually kind of fuck with Mao Spontex, to be honest.
Interesting. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the most well-read in terms of Mao. I mean, the basics, obviously, but...
Do you support the formation of a YDSA rural front? Yes, I support the formation of a YDSA rural front. I support sending all of you uppity little bastards to the country.
Why do you say... I don't know, man. I'm a city animal.
Well, you're going to be a country animal. You're going to be out there. You're going to be out there growing fucking rice because y'all have been bad. So, anything else that you want to talk about? We're hitting on an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I not at this time. I mean, if anybody has any more questions about my platform, please DM me. I would love to talk to you all. I would love to hop on the stream again some other time if you'll have me again. And I promise next time not to completely derail the conversation.
You didn't derail it.
About Sri Lanka.
You didn't derail anything. Like, one of the main purposes, like one of the main things that I like doing on the stream is giving comrades, whether they be indigenous. Why do people keep calling you Pookie?
Okay.
But yeah, I like giving colonized people.
That's Gen Z slang, man. That's all I can say about that.
Tell me what it is.
Pookie? Okay, let me.
The crackhead from New Jack City?
What? What is that?
You've never seen New Jack City?
No.
Jesus Christ, I'm old.
Well, okay, maybe I have.
New Jack City. It's like
I've seen that screenshot of the guy with the gun crying. That's where that's from.
Yeah, that's Nino Brown.
Okay.
Come on, you're from Detroit and you don't know what New Jack City, bro.
You know what? I never listen. Okay, I'll explain this now. Pookie is like, it's like it means like I guess like sweetheart. You know, like it's like when like
Pookie is what we call Pookie is a crackhead.
Pookie is a crackhead. Okay, well,
it's like a stereotypical hood name
for sure.
Pookie was the dude. Okay, he was played by Chris Rock.
Okay,
in New Jack City, and like he was this dude that got addicted to crack, right. And he ends up in a fucking. Well, I'm not going to spoil the movie for you.
Okay,
find it
for sure.
Find it and watch it tonight
for sure. In the kind of like, well, okay, in modern Gen Z culture, it's kind of evolved from like cutesy Tumblr speak. Of like, ooh, Pookie, whatever. And it's kind of like taken on a life of its own as like a shorthand for that. That chatter using it is not like using it in a romantic context. It's just kind of like a friendly like banter way of talking about it. This is Gen Z slang with Arjun Janik and everybody.
So y'all first of all, y'all are fucking cursed. Y'all's generation is cursed. If y'all aren't gambling addicts, y'all are calling each other Pookie. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Well, okay. Well, I guess we could end the stream on that high note.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Hope you win.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. All right. Bye.